Am I the butthole for telling a girl to stop wasting food? I, 21 female, usually always sit with the same group of people in my university's dining area. There's this girl who I've talked to a few times, but I'm not really friends with. She's kind of quiet, but when she finally talks she seems normal. I've sat across from her a few times and noticed how she was eating because it was weird to me. She eats maybe half of her food. Keep in mind you control the amount of food. It's cooked by the cafeteria staff buffet style. She could easily take less, and kind of plays with it with her fork when she's done, aka eating half of it, sometimes even less. I didn't say anything for a while, but a few weeks ago I had to ask her why she always only ate half her food. She seemed embarrassed, but answered she thought she was more hungry and laughed it off. I then asked her why she made this mistake every time we ate, and that she must have learned by now. She didn't really answer. I don't actually remember, but it wasn't actually an explanation, and left pretty quickly. She doesn't really show up that much anymore, but when she does she still eats like this, and I couldn't hold it in anymore. I asked her once again, and also asked her if her parents never told her not to play with her food. It was a genuine question. Some people are raised in households where manners aren't important, but obviously they are for most people. She got really mad at me and told me to stop commenting on her eating habits and that it was none of my business. I told her that it absolutely was since she was sitting at our table and obviously wasting food. She told me to go frick myself and left and threw out the rest of her food, again. After she left, one of my friends told me to leave her alone as she seemed like she was having a hard time and maybe had some sort of issue with food. Yeah, obviously she has an issue with food? She keeps wasting it. She hasn't shown up again. I'm assuming she buys her own food now, which might teach her not to waste it, so that's good. The same friend who told me to leave her alone keeps pestering me to apologize to her, but I think she should apologize to me. She's unnecessarily rude when being asked the most basic and obvious questions and also told me to go frick myself? That's way more harsh than anything I've ever told her. Keep in mind that I care a lot about food waste and the environment. Am I the butthole for telling a girl to stop wasting food? Edit. Okay. I'm the butthole. Sorry, I'm not studying to be an eating disorder specialist. I looked up stuff about it and I'm realizing I was too harsh. I'll apologize the next time I see her and try not to be so condescending. But you should all follow your own advice. If people genuinely don't know something you should tell them nicely instead, and I realize I should have tried to educate her nicely about food waste and not have commented at all on how she was eating. You're the butthole. Some people are raised in households where manners aren't important. Apparently that includes you because you're rude as hell. You're the butthole. It was hard to even read the whole thing. Why are you so concerned what this stranger is doing in the cafeteria? As much as I hate seeing wasted food, what do you think is happening to all the food that isn't ate that's cooked at your school? It goes to waste. Same thing happens at a lot of fast food chains and restaurants. The fact that you really kind of don't understand how awkward and embarrassing it is that you felt confident enough to walk up to someone and ask why they don't eat all their food, is wasteful is odd to me. What if she always thinks she's able to eat more than she actually is able to? Thinks a dish is going to be good but then after a few bites decides it's not? Who are you really to say? The fact that you feel entitled to an answer to the question is also odd to me. You're the butthole. Don't comment on people's eating habits. You don't know if it's an underlying ad or whatever reason. She doesn't need to justify it to you. You're the butthole. This doesn't need to be explained, guys. Doesn't really matter what you say. BCOP and unbelievably socially inept. You do realize people spend money on meal plans at school yet? You sound snotty and stuck up. Am I the butthole for canceling my wife's vacation? I am from a developing country that was pretty dangerous when I was a kid but has come a long way in the last 20 years. My wife has watched too many movies and TV shows that show my home country in the worst possible light. My family that still lives there all tend to be in professional fields and work in medical, legal, educational, or agricultural industries. For example, one of my cousins owns several companies that make products from sugarcane waste. He makes more money than I do. My grandmother and mom regularly travel back to visit family. It is safe enough for a middle-aged and an elderly woman to travel around in. I go back all the time too. I like seeing family, but also everything there is so cheap it is very cost-effective for me to take long vacations there. After more than 5 years of dating and 10 years of marriage, my wife has finally agreed to visit with me. The plan was to go for a couple of weeks this summer. 1 week in my hometown visiting my family. And 1 week in a resort city that dozens of cruise ships stop at every day. Basically it would be safer than San Francisco. But all she has been doing since she agreed is telling everyone how scared she is to go and how she is only going because I wore her down. I have been putting up with it for over a month. Last weekend we had her uncle and his family from out of town over for dinner and her folks joined us. She started going on about how scared she is. Her aunt mentioned that they had visited the resort city on one of their cruises. She had some pictures on her phone and was showing them off. My wife still wouldn't drop how dangerous it is there and how scared she is. Yesterday I called my family and apologized for not being able to see them this year. I also canceled our reservation at the 5-star hotel we were going to stay at. Instead I got us a very nice hotel in New York and I got some tickets for 2 shows on Broadway. Because of the price difference between the 2 vacations we are only going for a week. I told her about it and now she is pissed at me for canceling the hotel and just taking her to New York. She has been telling all the people at the school where she works how she is so brave for going to a third world country. How she was basically going to be staying in a hut. We were going to be staying with my uncle. He has servants. The hotel was nicer than any place we have stayed since our honeymoon. I honestly thought I was doing the right thing. All she has done is complain and tell everyone how scared she is. I am scared of heights. If she had gotten me skydiving lessons as a gift after I agreed to try it, I would not be surprised if she canceled them if all I did was complain to anyone who would listen. Not the butthole. From the way you describe it, it sounds like one of the cities you were going to was Cartagena, Colombia. I'm from Colombia and visit there all the time. That city is beautiful and has an amazing tourist reputation. Most of the big cities are safe as long as you avoid certain area. The exact same as most cities in America. There are places in Baltimore, New Orleans, and Oakland that I won't go near. It's too bad she busted your balls so much you canceled your trip. Some of the hotels in the old city in Cartagena are amazing. Try again though. It is a beautiful country and deserves to shed its reputation. She will love it. Not the butthole. Your wife is racist, plain and simple. Why are you married to someone who is so disrespectful of your home country and, I can only assume, your culture? First of all, you're telling me that you've been together for 15 years and she's never came with you to visit your family? Second of all, it's honestly coming off as racist on her part. Insisting the country is dangerous / seeing it as some caricature and dismissing your actual experiences? Saying she's brave for going to a third world country? Yikes. On your part, you could have and should have communicated on a decision that impacts you both. You're not the bigger but you have bigger relationship problems than this trip. Everybody sucks here. Not the butthole, but your wife genuinely sounds racist and xenophobic. Not sure why you married someone like that, but that's your business. Am I the butthole for refusing to get a job and pay rent at my parents' house? I had my 18th birthday 3 days ago. On the day after my birthday, my stepdad told me he wants me to start paying rent to live in his house. My stepdad is quite Christian and conservative. I don't accept to live rent-free forever, but I know my stepdad is coming from a spiteful place. He and my mum have 2 kids in 9 years of marriage. I'm not his own, and it's clear I'm a reminder that his wife was a non-virgin divorced woman before him, so of course I'm being treated like a guest and my mum is allowing it because she thinks the sun shines out of his ass. He doesn't need my money to pay rent, plus I don't have much and he wants £100 per month. We still have lots of time for this, but I bet his own kids won't be paying rent while they're in school. My A-level exams, UK school system, start mid-April and last up to July. I'm doing STEM subjects and I'm hoping to fulfill my offer for a medicine course at a good university. I'm aiming for AAAA, which will take a lot of studying, and if I have to get a job it will be difficult to maintain that level of studying that I need to do. I'm literally moving out in September. I don't know if the university finances differ in the USA, and this platform is predominantly American, so in the UK uni is funded by loans, and these loans cover everything and are 100% my responsibility, and my parents won't be financing anything. So it honestly just feels vindictive, and it's not like I'm unproductive. I'm trying to save the money I had left from my last job for when I move out too, and paying my stepdad £800 when he doesn't need it feels spiteful and like he's punishing me and making my life harder for being born. Basically my aunt, mum's sister, who isn't fond of him, said he's being ridiculous and told me to come live with her. Her house is an hour away but my school is in the middle, 30 minutes each way if that makes sense. She said she has a guest room free so I can save my money for uni. This benefits me most, so I took her up on the offer. My mother keeps crying that I'm leaving already, so my stepdad is annoyed. We got into an argument where he said he's just treating me like a tenant to prepare me for the real world, so I said, do tenants not have the right to leave? Which annoyed him further. My stepdad says I'm hurting my mother and taking resources from my aunt because I'm too entitled to pay rent. This is just what's best for me. I said I'd visit. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole. Actions meet consequences. Your stepdad tried to flex on you, and his power play backfired. Your mother may be crying, but she let him do it. That house is half hers, and so is the decision to charge you rent. She is not blameless here. Your aunt's resources are none of your stepdad's effing business. OP, move out without another guilt pang, okay? Work hard to crush your exams, and be super considerate and make yourself very useful in your aunt's household. Shovel the walk, do dishes, walk the dog, whatever is needed, and if you don't know, ask. Please don't come back to this house to visit if your stepdad is home. Ever. Your mom can darn well find her way to your aunt's house, without Mr. Flex on her arm. God bless your aunt for sheltering you from stepdad and his nonsense. And don't feel obliged to invite him to your graduations, either. Not the butthole. You're not the one upsetting your mom, your stepdad is. You're just being pragmatic and finding a solution to the problem he caused. He's a jerk for making you pay rent when you're still at college. A-levels are brutal. Your mom is a jerk for letting him treat you badly, and then being upset when you find a solution. Try not to fall out with your family, but ultimately you've got to do what's best for you and your long-term goals. Am I the butthole for outright mentioning pumping in my do not disturb sign? Throwaway, and I'm typing this on my phone while pumping, so please excuse any typos. I'm a nursing mom and I am fortunate to have my own office. Initially, when I returned to work, I would just close my door and put up a sign asking people to please return in 15 minutes. Unfortunately, I'd still have people banging on the door every few minutes or trying to talk to me through the door, or even jiggling the handle, asking if I could just whatever. My word that I need 15 undisturbed minutes wasn't enough, and it made my pumping sessions really stressful, and anyone who's ever pumped knows stress can really mess up the pumping and make it less efficient, so I amended the sign to say pumping please return in 15 minutes. That cut down on the disturbances, but apparently now a couple of coworkers have complained that it's to me and making them uncomfortable. Am I the butthole for outright announcing when I'm pumping? Not the butthole. For goodness sake, are your coworkers 6 years old? Not the butthole. Obviously the other sign didn't work. Who told you they were uncomfortable? Did they? Or did they have HR do it, and did HR say to eliminate that? You could try again with a sign that says you've stepped out and will return at. Not the butthole. You tried putting up a normal do not disturb sign, and people kept ignoring it. Your new sign is much more effective. Am I the butthole for wanting to rehome our 3 cats my wife's attached to? My 28 female wife, 29 female, and I have been together for 3 years, married for 1. Prior to us being together she was very anti-pets, zero interest. I'd always wanted a cat. We talked, and with heavy persuasion from me, ended up getting a Bengal from a breeder. She turned out to be very skittish, so we got her a Bengal sibling to maybe help. Neither of them are super cuddly, so we added a calico who is. All of these were joint decisions. Wife feeds them, I do litter box, water, meds, and Google solutions to any issues that come up. We just bought a house and I do most of the cleaning, vacuuming, dusting, tubs, laundry, etc. This was the case when I worked, but more so since I've been unemployed for 4 months. I've felt discontent with the cat since we moved because I have to clean constantly to stay on top of the shed hair, the food mess, the litter tracked everywhere. They randomly throw up on rugs and pooped on the hardwood floor. Vet visit showed nothing wrong. They've ripped out the bottoms of a new sofa set and scratched up the other. And wife frets about the cats being sad when we go out of town, even though my sister watches them for free each time. All in all, I'm over them and want to rehome them responsibly. The first alone and the last 2 together. I've mentioned it before and was met with sadness and resentment for bringing them into our lives, her getting attached and now me wanting them gone. She felt I was being flaky and said I struggle with commitment. So I walked it back with the condition that wife would do more cleaning up after them. I haven't seen that happen. I understand how it would hurt my wife to give them up, but all I see are upsides with less mess, more money in the budget, more space with their cat stuff gone. Am I the butthole for prioritizing those things over her joy and love for the cats? Edit. Took out costs I initially put in along with interventions to illustrate the decision wasn't being made lightly. All in all, I'm over them. Freaking wow. Don't ever have kids. You fought for those kitties. You're the butthole. You're the butthole. The fact that you list the prices of the cats is weird as frick, but on to the actual question. You made a poor decision to get 3 cats as a first-time cat owner, but they are actual, living beings and you pledged to care for them for their lives. You are capable of doing so, and your wife loves them, so you should make good on what you signed up for. Bringing them into your home required both of you to be on board, and so would getting rid of them. Am I the butthole for taking my girlfriend's daughter on a motorcycle ride? So I've been with my girlfriend for just under a year. We don't live together yet, but we plan on moving in together around April. I'm finishing renovations in my house. She has a daughter, 14, from a previous marriage. I don't really interact with her daughter that much, we'll say hi to each other etc., but we've never actually spent any one-on-one time. On Tuesday my GF called me and asked if I could pick up her daughter from school and take her to lunch because she had to stay late at work. I was free so I agreed. I decided to take my bike because the weather was pretty decent, it was cold but it wasn't raining. So after I picked her daughter up we went for some kebabs and afterwards her daughter asked me if she could ride around with me for a bit before I take her home. I didn't know she was into motorcycles so I thought that this might be my opportunity to bond with her. So we drove around on some countryside roads for about an hour and then I dropped her off. That same evening my GF called me and she was furious that I picked her daughter up from school on my bike. I told her that she never said I couldn't use my bike. We had a small argument and she called me selfish and irresponsible. But I still think I didn't do anything wrong. Am I the butthole here? Fellow motorcyclist. I'd never take a minor as a passenger without checking. It is a good bonding opportunity, but you may have ruined it. You're the butthole. You're the butthole. A motorcycle is much different from a car ride. Info: did you have appropriate gear for her? Helmet, boots, thick pants, thick jacket? No matter how good of a driver you are, there's thousands of cars on the road that could frick up and get you hurt. Bikes offer no protection. You're the butthole, mildly. Your heart was in the right place and she could have specified for clarity. But I think it's common sense to not pick up a kid on a motorcycle. They are dangerous at the best of times. She probably didn't say anything because she thought she didn't have to. I watched my friend die on the road from a motorcycle accident that wasn't his fault. He was literally going the speed limit, wearing a helmet and a jacket. I'll grant you that I'm triggered. Haven't been a passenger on a bike since. Drive safely. Am I the butthole for being annoyed that my wife allowed my brother to stay at our house? My 39 male brother 20 lives with his girlfriend about an hour's drive away from me and my wife. My brother and I have never been close due to the age difference. Our parents had me young, and then him later in life. He was always the spoiled one who got whatever he wanted. We see each other on holidays and special occasions, but other than that we might talk on the phone once or twice a month. Last night I had to work late and could not be reached by phone. When I got off, I noticed that I had 2 missed calls from my brother and a few from my wife, but it was already close to 11 p.m. so I chose to just drive home and not call and possibly wake someone up. I walk into the house and see my wife, 41 female, and brother on the couch playing Mario Kart. When I walk in they both say hi and go back to their game. I went to the bedroom to shower and frankly, just sleep. I was exhausted. My wife comes in a few minutes later, and I ask her why my brother was there. She said, he called her because he and his girlfriend had gotten into a pretty heated argument, and he just needed to get away from the situation for a little while he figured out what he was going to do. They only have one car, and it's in the girlfriend's name so he couldn't take it. Apparently, he tried to call me and when I didn't answer, he called her and she went and picked him up an hour away, even though she hates driving at night. They also went out to dinner before coming home. I told her that I find it odd that she would pick up my brother and take him to dinner, just because he got into an argument with his girlfriend. That he is an adult and needed to work it out. She just rolled her eyes at me and said he would be staying in the spare room as long as he needed, that I was acting weird, and that he is my brother and has no idea why it was such a huge deal that he was here. I told her that if someone is staying at my house, especially my family, I should be the one who decides that. That he had no right to call her, that he should have waited for me to call him back, and would be talking to him in the morning. She told me to deal with it and grow up, that he was always welcome here. My wife is now mad at me and I am stuck with my brother in the house for who knows how long until he figures out his life. We already have 2 teens. I don't need another kid here. I stand by what I said, my brother doesn't need to be here, but my wife is still mad at me today. Am I the butthole for saying that she should not have picked up my brother and allowed him to stay at the house? Is there some huge beef you have with your brother that you didn't mention? Like he killed your dog or something? Because it seems like your wife did a very kind thing, and aided a member of your family going through a tough time while you were unreachable, and you're angry with her? It's unthinkable for anybody who is in actual possession of a heart, unless there is some major context that you are omitting. I told her that if someone is staying at my house, especially my family, I should be the one who decides that. It's also your wife's house. She lives there too. She can have whoever she wants over. This statement is controlling and unreasonable. I think what's happening here is straight up, pure jealousy. That your wife treated your brother, whom you are jealous of, with kindness. You're the butthole. You're the butthole. He's an adult, then he's a kid? Make up your mind. You were unavailable. He needed help. Nothing weird about that. Long-term staying in the house, yeah, y'all should discuss, but a night or two you weren't reachable and it happened. You sound like a terrible brother. You're the butthole. Bro, you are 40 years old. Instead of being insistent about making decisions for your family, why not learn to care about your family instead? Your brother is going through a tough time, your wife is just trying to be nice. Why are you making this about yourself? You are definitely the butthole here or are leaving out a ton of info. Yeah, you have some minor points. I don't like people staying at my house either, but it isn't just your house and its family, and you didn't specify that there was horrible drama or anything. Your post comes off controlling and dickish. Sorry I'm being short, but I'm pressed for time. At most it's a hey, it kind of bothered me how this all went down, can we talk about future instances? But as written, you're the butthole. Am I the butthole for refusing to pay for someone else's flight after I flaked on a trip? Back in November, me and a long-time friend bought flights to Miami for March 2023. The plan was to hang out, do some shopping, probably a theme park, etc. Last week, I realized I was catching feelings for this friend, so I decided to invite her out on a date. She said no and was very gentle about it. Rejection OFC hurts and I'll get over it. The issue started when I said I would no longer go to Miami with her as it would be uncomfortable for me to spend so much time together after being rejected. I know I'm flaking on the trip, so I told her I'd pay her non-refundable flight if she ends up not going. She said that's not enough and that I must pay her friend's flight, 2x expensive, so she can still go on the trip. I refused and a fight ensued. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole. Dodge a bullet here. She doesn't think very highly of you if she's trying to get you to pay for the ticket of someone else to go with her. You offered to reimburse her ticket, which I think is more than fair. Not the butthole. These things happen and you're only responsible for your flight. To offer to pay for hers is very kind of you, and not necessary, but she has time to find someone else who can pay. She's an off for trying to force you to pay for someone else. Would I be the butthole if I try to get rid of the van lifers living in front of my home? Hello, I live on a dead-end street with my wife and infant son. We have off-street parking in the neighborhood, and as long as there is not a snow ban, there is no limit to the length you can park. I live toward the end of the street, so it's very quiet, and I noticed a van started parking out front of my house. Over the course of a month I've realized that someone is living in the van. I'm not trying to be a jerk about this, but I don't like the idea of someone living out front of my house with my wife and kid inside. My wife works from home with my son and it bothers her. I'm not one of those people who polices public parking, but I think this guy has overstayed his welcome. So that's that. Would I be the butthole if I try to get this guy to leave, or should I just leave him alone? Edit, I would just like to clarify that I don't believe this guy is homeless in the traditional sense. This is a nice converted van. That's why I said van lifer. I honestly think I would have more empathy if it was an unhoused person and not some wealthy frat bro camped outside my living room. Not the butthole. Don't engage though. Go through the city or the police. Not the butthole. If you call the city, they, usually, will tell the van lifers to leave. You don't have to talk directly to the people, who might be dangerous.